History is littered with a long line of lovable but angry men.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm going to give you a damn good thrashing. Finally, my stupidity pays off. I don't believe it.
But one man rises above them all.
What just happened?
He's mad as hell. It's Kevin O'Sullivan.
While Westminster's self-styled ruling classes squirm in their moment of shame, they haughtily instruct us that we are not to take these sensational lockdown files seriously and must instead wait patiently for the results of the official COVID inquiry, which, if we're lucky, should come through about the same time as we fail to achieve carbon net zero in 2050. It is precisely this superior attitude on the part of our allegedly elite body politic that informed ludicrous Health Secretary Matt Hancock's horrible approach to government throughout the COVID omnishambles. Treat the people like a bunch of serfs to be manipulated in the all-important battle for favourable headlines and career advancements. Bottle up news of a dangerous new variant and release it strategically to deliberately terrify the peasants into complying with the ridiculous rules and regulations that did so little to stop the spread of the virus. Absolutely outrageous. We don't need to wait at least a decade for the snail-paced COVID inquiry to tell us what, thanks to Isabel Oakeshot's shocking WhatsApp gate revelations, we already know. Now that jumped-up politicians such as Hancock were making it up as they staggered along, that they didn't follow the science, that they acted like authoritarian despots swirling around in a morass of wrong decisions that cost thousands of lives and wrecked the economy. So let these pompous little people do their media rounds. Let them tell the BBC, the state broadcaster that so disgracefully spread their lockdown propaganda, that the newspapers are not the place where they should be judged. All together now. Oh, yes, they are. Oh, how they hate the free press and the speed at which it operates. And let them kid themselves that this isn't their day of reckoning, that this isn't the moment when they got rumbled, when we found out that the boys and the girls in the Westminster bubble are just a gaggle of overgrown, privately educated school kids sending each other stupid emojis. L-O bloody L. If you didn't laugh, you'd cry. Let that epic failure, Boris Johnson, imagine that we haven't got his number. Let him make a total fool of himself, nominating his dubious dad for a knighthood, which, if this country is not a complete joke, he must not, of course, get. Don't arise, Sir Stanley. Stay right where you are, Mr. Johnson, and let us, the British people, call time on this stupefying system of ill-deserved privilege. Let us call time on the us and them. Let us tell them that they work for us. We are their bosses, not the other way round. We are at an MP's expenses point of history, a jaw-dropping insight into the chaos of a nation in the hands of laughable half-wits. The lockdown files must ring in much-needed, long-awaited changes. Here's what has to stop. Politicians thinking they're better than the rest of us, thinking they have the right to play with our minds, thinking they're the generals and we're the cannon fodder, thinking their hopeless war against the virus was a triumph. It wasn't. It was an unmitigated disaster for which we will continue to pay an astronomical price for many years to come. The carping cabinet crew are queuing up to bleat to Laura Kuenssberg about what a shame it is that the pesky public discovered the terrible truth at a time when it matters, as opposed to 10 years or more from now when it won't matter. We win, they lose. Now we must consolidate our victory and put politicians in their place below us. Welcome to episode 2 of What Just Happened, and my special guest this week, a warm welcome to political commentator Esther Cracker and sports legend, talkTV host of the Sunday Night Club, Mark Saggers. Thanks for coming along, guys. I just made my feelings pretty clear about Hancock and the lockdown files. What do you think, Mark?
The Johnsons, the Hancocks, the privileged, they have taken the mick out of all of us.
Yeah, what about this, Esther? I mean, this is what's happened with the lockdown files, brilliantly exposed by talkTV's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. We have found out the truth about this lot, particularly Matt Hancock, but all of the cabinet crew, much earlier than they wanted us to. That's what public inquiries are for. Official inquiries are to kick the can down the road. So when the results come out in about 10 years' time, no one cares anymore. Well, we care now. We've found out now, and that's why they're so furious. They've been rumbled, right?
This is the thing. I don't think anyone is surprised, though. That's the sad thing, because I think we could all sense the contempt that they had for us with the way they just so callously locked us down and completely destroyed our democratic process to even voice our dissent. What does surprise me, though, is the YouGov poll, which actually indicates that the majority of people either agreed with the lockdown measures or think they didn't go far enough.
It's YouGov. YouGov always come up with results that suit the government and the establishment every time.
But it is
the
worrying.
Worst polling outfit in the world.
But it is worrying because you just have to think...
It won't be true.
Well, I wouldn't completely write it
it
off, but I do find it very worrying because it really just shows the psyche of the fact that people bought into it. People actually like to be taken care of, and they like to say that, oh, the government told me to do so. So I just find it completely absurd that there's not more outrage about this. There should be protests. I mean, Matt Hancock is a complete disgrace. And also, he should be called Mancock, because I feel like that's just a missed opportunity.
The only problem with all of this is that there's an awful lot of my mates who are electricians and plasterers and what have you. They loved Boris Johnson because Boris Johnson gets away with the sort of things that they want to get away with.
Well, because
and that's going to be a real problem
because
he's a caricature and he's a character and whatever he is. He's also very charming at times when you meet him and what have you. I can't stand him. I can't stand anything about him. But Matt Hancock is is for me. I have met so many Matt Hancocks. They are those that as soon as your back's turned, they're
stabbing it. They don't stab you in the front, they stab you in the back.
And just look at him, he's pale. He looks... He looks,
that's not his fault.
It is his fault. He's pale and drained because...
Stale.
Because he's pale and drained, and I know that he told Boy George that his father was a gambler and nearly lost the business. It's always been nearly with Matt Hancock. I was
nearly had a
gambler.
career.
I haven't had a bet for 14 years.
Oh, wow.
But what I do understand is that Matt Hancock does not have that piece that goes through him that says, I don't need to do this. I don't need to let these people down. He lets them down and he doesn't give a about them.
Okay, good. Glad you stopped yourself there. So we're with you all the way. The thing that I thought yesterday's revelations, day after extraordinary day last week, they released more and more of the lockdown files based on 100,000 WhatsApps between Matt Hancock, various other cabinet ministers, all of whom are revealed to be a bunch of emoji-sending idiots, who were absolutely,
what do you have against
absolutely
emojis?
Floundering through this. So day after day, we found out that he ignored scientific advice about care homes, that he was basically making it up as he went along. But the most shocking revelations, I think, came yesterday when it was revealed that him and some no-mark, some unelected civil servant called Simon Case, colluded to bottle up and choreograph the release of news about a dangerous variant, the Kemp variant, in order to deliberately terrify people into complying with the ridiculous rules and regulations of the failed lockdowns that Matt Hancock himself had so much trouble obeying, with his tongue down his girlfriend's throat in the middle of the health department. That was a disgrace. We're talking about terrifying mothers and dads about their kids. We're talking about terrifying pensioners that it might die. These people thought it was a memo in Westminster. Absolutely outrageous, and it must never happen again. And that's why they're squirming, because they've been found out.
I completely agree.
Okay.
No, but...
Right, moving on.
No, but it's the lack of shame, right? Because to do this with such impunity, I mean, isn't it surprising that what actually caught them out was not, the release of this grand inquiry or actual notes or anything, any encrypted files, WhatsApp messages. This is how they planned the unilateral shutdown of this country, WhatsApp messages, in the most callous manner. Let's scare the pants off people and, having a go at scientists that you don't agree with and calling them, what did he say? Busybodies or something like that, loudmouths, because they don't agree with the scientific consensus that we should shut down our economy. I mean, it's just It's so shameless. And for me, what I find the most distasteful is the fact that Matt Hancock really does believe he's a victim and that he's had his privacy invaded in such a way instead of actually thinking of the consequences of his actions.
He is a victim. He's a victim of the truth, and
Well,
he's finished. And we must never let this happen again. As I say, they think they're the generals and we're the cannon fodder. Well, that isn't going to play anymore. We're the generals. They work for us, and we must never let this happen to us again.
Do you know what I've also found a little disappointing is that if they are going to be these great con men, I wish they'd got more brain. They're showing how little brain.
Oh, they're no good.
These are not clever people.
They're no good.
And that worries me more than an awful lot of things about we're being basically governed in an undemocratic way by men, mostly, and some women who are not very clever at all.
And we found out that in the worst crisis to hit this country since the Second World War, we were being led by giggling half-wits who simply were way out of their depth, sending silly messages to each other, and in Hancock's case, seeing this as a career opportunity. Absolutely disgusting. Before we go to break, I just want to move on because I'm going to mention the migrant crisis. This week, we heard Rishi Sunak bringing in tough new laws to stop the boats. They won't stop the boats because he won't leave the European Convention on Human Rights.
Yeah. I mean, if you do lay out this sort of elaborate plan on how to stop the migrant crisis...
By the way, it's about his 10th elaborate plan on how to stop the
there's that
Maybe this one will actually work. Doubt it. Don't bet the farm on it.
But the thing is, you always have to have contingencies in place because there's no point harping on that this is what you're going to do and you're going to get it sorted before the next general election and then looking like an idiot because you don't actually get it done. And the point is, it doesn't matter what he comes up with. If it can be stopped by European courts, if you can have an army or a cabal of human rights lawyers saying, you know, you can't send this person back because they have a mole on their back or whatever, you know, there's no point. I mean, there's a clause in the latest bill that stipulates that this would not affect child migrants, right? Well, then you just pretend that you're a child. How would they know? Most of these people destroy their documents upon landing in the UK anyway.
So you have the gang leaders that are based in this country. You have the gang leaders that are terrifying people to come to this country, taking away their money on a lot of the time. It's not difficult here. For some unknown reason, I welcome immigrants who really want to come and play a part in our communities. Of course I do.
Came legally.
Of course we all did, and who come legally, and others that are actually fleeing a real problem within their country. But this has got nothing to do with it. This is organised crime.
They're Albanians.
Not just
well,
Albanians,
the majority
but
of them.
it's organised crime that we have turned a blind eye to and still are. There's only one way to stop it. You don't let them come in.
Yeah, no, exactly. And one thing, the body politic that we're talking about now, they love to say, well, this is all down to evil people smugglers. Yes, people smugglers are evil and their awful trade must be stopped. However, it's not just all down to evil people smugglers. It's down mainly to the illegal migrants who illegally get into dinghies and illegally try to break into our country. They need to be demonised too.
I do think there is one thing that Sunak needs to address, and I cannot believe...
There's a lot of things.
Well, yes, I cannot believe how behind the Tories are on addressing this.
Okay.
It's safe and legal routes, because if you're saying there are many safe and legal routes into this country, if you look at the breakdown of the people coming on the dinghies, for instance, a good chunk of them, the majority are Albanians, but you also have a lot of Afghans coming, and a lot of people from Eastern Europe and all of these countries. There are actually safe and legal UN routes for Afghan refugees to come to the UK,
I think we should close them all down.
We can't do that.
This solution.
We can't
do that. Let's have legal routes. No, let's not have any routes.
But that's another way to circumvent a lot of the legal issues they're facing.
Anyway, this show is full of excellent commercials, and it's time now to find out all about sugar rice crinkles. Take it away.
The best breakfast under the big top is Post Sugar Rice Crinkles. So crinkly, so delicious, so different. Each grain of rice in Sugar Rice Crinkles is crinkled with honey and sugar. It's so good, I crinkle every time I eat it. Yep, no matter what other rice cereal you've ever tried, you'll love Post Sugar Rice Crinkles best of all. Honey and sugar make it different and wonderful. A circus of fun to eat. So you crinkle on down to the store for Post Sugar Rice Crinkles, the greatest cereal treat on earth.
See, if I was that guy, you know, the clown guy there making that happen, I'd be thinking, my life has been such a failure. You know, I'd hope for so much more than to be sitting there talking about these sugar rice crinkles.
Well, you know,
would that get you to buy sugar rice crinkles? I don't think so.
I mean,
Well, it might get Americans to buy it because they buy into everything. They buy into everything, and that is a classic of just where the food industry in the States, the advertising industry in the States, the government within the States are just conning the people of the States into early graves.
I mean, I just saw diabetes with that.
It happens here too. By the way, Mark, you were on the show last week. Great to have you on board this week, Esther. And the reviews are all already coming in, so it's time now for
mean
tweets. Mean tweets. Well, disappointingly, Sags, you were on the show last week, as I just said. And
was that disappointing? That I was on the show last week.
What's disappointing is that there's no bad reviews for you. But there's a fair few for me. Here's one. Just switched on and heard Kevin O'Sullivan rambling inane. How does this clown get on the radio? Here's another one. Kevin O'Sullivan used to be the TV critic on The Mirror until they let him go. They didn't let me go, they fired me, get it right. He now has a weekend job on an awful radio station and hangs around with a bloke who thinks you can grow concrete. Well, that's just a statement of fact. What's the point of that? Rubbish. Here's another one. Kevin O'Sullivan, Twitter twit has blocked me for ripping him a new. Imagine a grown-up TV critic not able to take criticism. You couldn't make this up. Well, mate, I have no idea who you are, but I'm glad I blocked you because you sound like a right. Right, next up, here we go. This one's fun. Awful show. Full of generalisations, speculation, exaggeration, and untruths, all wrapped up in a labyrinth of non-sequiturs. This person doesn't know what a non-sequitur is, but never mind. So, yeah, pretty good reviews, yeah?
I mean,
not bad.
It could be worse.
Not really.
It could be.
Now let's have a real break. The mysteries of modern Britain, indeed the modern world to me right now, is why drag queens have taken to teaching or telling stories to very little kids. I mean, I've got no objection to drag queens, but I don't know why they want to hang around with very young children. Let's find out what this drag queen thinks about what he is doing.
When I first heard about it, I was just like, where can I sign up? And I was part of the first few girls who started Drag Queen Story Hour in New York City. So when I put on my wig on my dress, like, I'm ready to go save the world.
How many of you want to be a mermaid when you grow up?
For me, I think Drag Queen Story Hour is just such a natural fit. It's like one of those ideas that's just so good that I'm shocked that no one had thought of it sooner.
Gosh. I mean, only a couple of weeks ago in the Isle of Man, of course now known gender neutrally as the Isle of Them, a drag queen was in a primary school teaching little kids, not teaching, telling them stories. And he informed, they like to call themselves she, but they're blokes in dresses. He informed these kids that, well, children, this is a great story. There are 73 genders. And one little kid, who shall always remain my hero, said, no, there aren't, there are 2. So the drag queen sent him out of the class.
Really?
He said, you've upset me, get out. They have now reviewed their policy about this, allowing drag queens into schools to tell little kids stories. Drag queens are, by their very nature, sexualised creatures. They can be very entertaining when they do their acts for adults, but why are they hanging around with little kids? What's this about?
And what's the need for it? Which parent thought, you know what my kid was really missing when they were being raised?
They're trying to brainwash them into their sort of gender-neutral world, I think. And frankly, that's not their role, that's not their job, and I think it has to stop. Don't you think so, Mark?
Well, it's a nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, drag queens were there in Shakespearean times. I don't mind Cinderella and the Ugly Sisters if they want to dress up and do whatever they want to do. That's fine. Isn't it? That's a pantomime.
Yeah.
So that's great. Of course, it's not just the drag queens, is it? It's the drag queen mates. the teachers, the headmaster, the headmistress, all of the governors at these schools, they're the ones that think, oh, this is the great way to teach the next generation what? Absolute bunkum. Rubbish. Absolutely. And I tell you one other thing. Watching that, the thing that incensed me more than anything, there were kids there who weren't even school age, sitting there in that front row. This is it. As far as drag queens go, stick to the stage, stick to the pantomime.
Stick to the adults.
I've been to quite a few drag queen shows and really enjoyed them.
Yeah, no, they're very
because they're
entertaining.
for grown-ups.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not for kids. I saw pictures the other day, or footage of, this drag queen, like with his legs split, so you can see all his crown jewels, with these little kids sitting there. And parents had taken their kids to this event. Why? Why would you do that?
I mean, it's child abuse, really. If you can expose your child to that kind of content, you cannot tell me that child is growing up in a safe and healthy home.
I mean, we used to have that nonsense when, obviously, my daughter was growing up, that they all wanted, for the parties, somebody to come and do a bit of magic or a bit of this and everything. And you used to have to watch out there and then on all those sort of things. You did at times. You've got to really look after everybody because it was totally unregulated and there were people turning up doing all sorts of things. But actually, in the end, the kids don't want that. They want just a good little party with themselves, running around, screaming. What's they got in the party bag afterwards? Bit of the tumble tots and what have you. They don't want older men telling them how to run their lives.
Absolutely.
Dressed as who knows what.
Also, the wisdom of little kids, their innocence, the simplicity of their trail of thought.
Their honesty.
And what we have with this drag queen and the 73 genders is a fantastic Emperor's New Clothes moment.
Totally.
This idiot dressed as a woman, big false eyelashes, piddling around in front of a bunch of kids. Get a life. Do something better. Anyway, there he is. There are 73 genders, kids. A little kid. No, there aren't. There are 2. Exactly. And then, of course, the drag queen loses her rag and sends the kid out, which has actually brought about a complete change of policy in the Isle of Them schools. They're not going to do this anymore with a bit of luck. But why did they ever entertain the notion?
And how did the parents consent to this?
Yeah.
Why did parents say yes?
Why do schools do it? I mean, the teachers, they're supposed to be protecting their charges, their pupils, not exposing them to sexual acts by adults. Unbelievable.
I mean, it's deeply uncomfortable. I mean, I would love to sit across from one of these people and ask them why they, as a grown man, dressed as a hypersexualized female caricature, feel the need to go to schools and teach and expose themselves to children in this way and what they do and their act and all of that. I just want to understand what they think children are missing.
Yeah,
well,
I totally agree.
What is it about this side of our world now where they want their children to grow up too quickly?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want them to grow up in the way they can grow up.
That's it. We're invading these children's innocence.
We're just absolutely
We're destroying
they're
it.
just not looking after them
at the age of 5.
They're just not looking after them anymore.
It's got to stop. It's also now, after that very serious discussion, we could do with a laugh. So it's time for another one of our commercials. Take it away, Baby Laugh a Lot.
Listen to Remco's Baby Laugh a Lot. You're listening to Baby Laugh a Lot. She's the funniest doll you've ever seen. Just push the button and she starts to giggle. Get Baby Laugh a Lot by Remco.
You know what that reminds me of? This.
Who lives and reigns with the Father and the Holy Spirit. Damien!
I mean, Baby Laugh a Lot, more like The Exorcist, wasn't it? I mean, that advert, Baby Laugh a Lot, somebody somewhere in the mists of time thought that would sell the product. I mean, it's terrifying.
It's like, gives me Bride of Chucky vibes.
Yeah, well, there you go, The Exorcist.
Something very sinister about dolls at times when they're...
Well, they're scary.
Shown in that
Imagine
sort of...
waking up and having a doll
Rocking
in
Horses. Rocking Horses are really scary. Staples of horror movies.
Really?
Well, yeah, you always get rocking horses, dolls.
Oh,
they're
yes,
always
actually,
part
no, you're
of the
right.
horror scene.
Yeah, you're
As
right.
a parent, of course, whatever the fad is for the Christmas and all the kids decide they want. Furbies, you're way too young to understand Furbies. Furbies were these sort
I
of
think
some
I
of the
remember
first
them.
interactors with you as individuals. You could wake them up and all this sort of thing, put them to bed and what have you. So everyone had to one of those. But they were fun. It was fun. They were little, just little cuddly little toys. But there is an element again in all of this that kids love to be frightened. So I don't want to go too far over the top, because last week, of course, they nearly tried to cancel Roald Dahl.
Exactly.
Because kids actually like a little bit of adrenaline
Excitement,
running from excitement, and they want to begin to learn what's scary and what's not, and whether they're brave and whether they're not. It's all part of it, but there's always some sort of deviant way these days that
Baby
really,
Laugh a Lot
I think
never
is
made the
terrible.
grade.
It's very creepy.
Baby Laugh a Lot never made the grade. It's now time for small town news. Well, first of all, these are the local stories around the world that are making the news. You know, I used to work on a local paper, and some of the stories you had to cover, I could believe you go, this isn't a story. Yeah, but there's nothing else going on. You know, bus stop change. You know,
Oh, God.
new roundabout.
Yeah.
Lorries trundling down the street. Residents want to put the brake on them and all that rubbish. Anyway, this is our first one. This is a woman who is addicted to eating toilet rolls. Says she gets through 75 sheets of the stuff every single day, with her mum claiming it's like crack to her. Keisha, who lives in the American city of Chicago, has a condition called xylophagia, an eating disorder that concerns consumption of paper. A 34-year-old has been munching loo roll pretty much every single day for 23 years. Do you eat toilet paper at all?
I do not. I am very curious as to what her trips to the loo look like when she's done munching on the loo roll.
I hope she eats them like before they're used.
I think they should name and shame the name of the toilet paper, because if you can eat 75 sheets of toilet paper, there is no way that toilet paper can take the moisture that it was being made for.
It's not filling enough. They need
it
exactly
work.
right.
It's
Exactly. A more
disgusting.
nutritious and more filling toilet paper would be just what Keisha could do with her. We're going to move over to Peru now. Police seize Egyptian mummy sleeping in a delivery man's bed. Police in Peru have seized a mummified human between 600 and 800 years old from the portable cool bag of a man who claimed it was his girlfriend. Julio Cesar Barmejo, 26, a former food delivery man, claimed to have had the mummy at his home for 3 decades and even slept with it in his bed. At home, she's in my room, she sleeps with me, I take care of her, he said in a video that went viral on social media. Julio needs help, doesn't he?
I mean, he's an incel to the extreme, which is very sad.
Well, no, because incels can't get to date a woman. He's got a
he's
woman.
not dating
I mean,
a woman.
albeit a dead one who's been dead for 600 years. But at least he's got a girlfriend.
Okay, at least
Come on.
what, is he a necrophile then?
Well, maybe.
I mean, that is deeply disturbing. I can imagine his sexual organs have a bit of gangrene on them.
Yeah. Any comments on that, Mark?
No, no. Absolutely none.
OK, here we go. This is more up your street, Sags. Spanish High Court backs man's right to walk naked in the street. A Spanish High Court has ruled in favour of a man who was fined for walking naked through the streets of a town in the region of Valencia and later tried to attend a court hearing in the nude. Basically, Alejandro Colomar, 29, was filmed arriving at court with just a pair of hiking boots on, and his trial was a triumph for him because they said you can carry on walking around naked.
Right. Give me a minute.
Covering the important stuff.
As you do.
This is an important current affairs show.
Of course, no, I mean...
These are breaking news
the Spanish judges covering...
Spanish judge, I like that.
No. What is it? There are 3 groups. What is it about the Spanish, the Scandinavians, and the socialists? They can't help taking their clothes off everywhere. Wait, I just got to tell you this very quickly. So, in Llucmajor in Menorca, the Scandinavians all go over there on holiday.
Okay.
And I met the mayor of Llucmajor. I said, stop advertising for these nudist beaches. You've got to advertise for the only beach left where people are keeping their kit on. We've all got families. And then the other thing with the socialists. When I grew up in Cambridge, for an extra bit of money, I used to punt people up the river towards Grantchester and tell them about the thing. And then halfway along the river there was an outdoor skinny dipping pool, which was basically fellows, professors, and the glitterati of the
mind
university.
boggles, yeah.
And they were like seals with nothing on, slip into the water, try to get to the punt, and then the women in their 60s and 70s, some of them, and the blokes used to either try to get their genitalia or their breasts over the edge of the punt. Anyway, everyone laughed, and of course it was sick. By the time we got back from Grantchester, the home of Rupert Brooke, it did at last give me one line as we're punting them back past. All it was stands the church clock at 10 to 3, and is there still more nudity?
Very good, very good.
I would need therapy after seeing all of that.
Rupert Brooke. So I got that wrong. God, I made an idiot of myself there. I'm going to tell a quick story about this naked phenomenon. A few years back, when I was an executive on the Mirror, along with various other people of this parish, including Mr. Piers Morgan, who was then the editor, there was a guy walking around Britain. He was called Naked Guy. And he went from town to town to town.
I think I've heard of it.
And just like our Spanish friend, everywhere he went, he got arrested and done for indecent exposure. Except for some places, they would take a more liberal attitude and allow him to continue his naked rambling. So we thought at the Mirror it'd be a good idea to get a young reporter to walk around the streets of London with Sweet FA on, absolutely stark naked. And we got a keen young reporter to do that, and all the pictures are still on record. Guess who that was?
Tom Newton-Dunn.
Tom Newton-Dunn, correct!
I'm sure he will never live that down.
His career has been downhill ever since. Time now for another ad. And now it is time for the best of bad TV. Old school goggle box there. Now, our first show, I remember this, I think I was writing my TV column at the time, but I certainly remember it. It's called MILF Manor. Now, as you know, MILF stands for Mother I'd Like to. I'm not going to say the next word. This is a dating show. Well, it says here, for mothers and their sons. That's against the law, I think. But anyway, let's have a look.
Woo! That's my mom right there. Mamá, ¿qué haces aquí?
Dios mío de mi vida. Oh my God.
I just saw straight two possessed eyes and just stay there for a couple of seconds and say, what is this?
I am really confused right now. What is really happening here?
Wait, that's my mom right there? This can't be going on.
So, I'm not quite sure about the kind of format here. I'm assuming that this is a bunch of guys and their mums are all there, but the sons don't actually go out with their mums.
Well, sure, we're not going to have an Oedipus complex.
No, that's against the law, isn't it? The police
Is it sons with their mums? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can work that out because it's a bunch of kids, blokes, and that's all of their mums. So, but other blokes will go out with their mums.
Yeah.
So they've got to watch their mums going out with their mates.
And do their mums also try and hook them up with the young ladies?
Yeah. Well, no. They're going to go out with the old lady.
It's just for the mothers.
Do you know what?
Is this a dating show for the mothers?
Mother I'd like to fornicate with.
Okay.
But it's not fornicate.
Yes.
Disgraceful.
That's deeply upsetting.
So that's deeply upsetting.
Deeply upsetting.
It is, Esther, you're absolutely right.
It's deeply upsetting. I cannot think of anything worse.
I mean, can you imagine if you watched that, the family together, in your primetime television in the States?
Yeah, it's just...
What do you do? How
would you even know what your mother likes?
Well,
that's very weird.
Well, you find out by watching
I
don't
want to know.
Hopefully your dad, if he's sitting there.
Okay, the next show, this is about a woman who makes the strange decision to have a baby in a storm. It's... That's true. It's called Born in the Wild. Take it away.
Linda and Lance are trying to set up for an outdoor birth. Whoa. But Mother Nature isn't cooperating.
I need help. Holy cow. I'm starting starting to get a little nervous, thinking maybe I won't be able to do this.
Is that the head?
Yeah, that's almost so.
That better be the baby's head.
So what's happened, as you can see, is that she's gone into the wild to have a baby for a TV show. But what they hadn't predicted was this storm whipping up, and that's going to take all the equipment away. But, you know, the birth of a baby, as you know...
Why is it always American?
...waits for no man. And she's having a baby, but there's a storm going on.
Why is it always Americans that do these weird things?
We're not so bad either.
I mean, I don't think I'd see...
They do it so that we can copy them. Well, everything that happens in California happens in London about 3 years later.
Just drive through Staffordshire and just see a woman giving birth.
It does happen a lot in Staffordshire in particular. Other counties not so much, but Staffordshire is quite a thing.
Speaking from experience.
Yeah,
who watches that?
That's why I don't go there.
But who sits down to watch that?
It is still entertainment. I'm curious whether she manages to do it.
Oh, of course, there's always that side of things.
So,
I understand
We know what she should have done. She should have turned to another TV show. Call the Midwife, you know.
It's basically all, and before television, of course, this used to go and pay the old penny and you'd go into some sort of freak show at the local fair, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
that's all this is, really.
Right, we're going to move on to another show. I'm going to do the theme tune for you. I used to watch this when I was a kid. It goes, how? It was this show where these panellists would say, how do you do this? How do you do this? And then they would show you, and it was usually a disaster. So here we are. This is how, and this is Fred Dinage, I believe.
How do you get an egg that's long enough to go all the way through a veal ham and egg pie? Look, it's there at the beginning, it's there in the middle, and it's still there going strong at the end.
Multiple eggs. Duh.
Well, so we don't get the answer then. Are we getting the answer? So
you have multiple eggs.
So I'm just being told he sticks it in a big tube and he shakes it. That's how he gets a 3-foot-long egg.
I refuse to believe that.
We should have seen the results of his elongated egg probe, but...
I fundamentally refuse to believe that.
But do you remember that show, Sang?
Oh, I remember. How?
Me and my brother used to watch it when we were kids, and there was this guy called Jack Hargreaves on it, and he was like this country guy, and he was always out hunting for squirrels and things like that with a blunderbuss. And so we were little kids, about 2 years old, he'd go, how do you kill a fox? And then he'd be out and he'd shoot some fox or he'd trap a thing. He was just a sort of animal murderer, basically.
Well, there was all a bit of that. Well, of course, Fred Dinage...
he's still broadcasting.
His second coming, really, no, he was absolutely brilliant on regional television down there. But his second coming, of course, is with all these crime shows that he does, where he goes to see everybody and everything.
Yeah, no.
And he asks them exactly the same question.
Phenomenal.
How? And why?
Yeah. Now, it's time for another baby ad. Oh, baby, we've got another one for you. Take it away, Magic Potty Baby.
Magic Potty Baby, your bottle's all done. If potty training time will be so much fun. I help you with your training pants, you make me so proud. Your potty feels like magic, then it flushes out loud.
It's fun to help Magic Potty Baby learn to use her potty. Flush and you're ready for next time.
Magic Potty Baby, I'm so glad that you're mine.
Magic Potty Baby and her Magic Potty. No water, no mess. Batteries not included.
That's great, isn't it?
I mean, that would traumatize me as a child. I think motherhood rates would plummet if that became worldwide, because that is horrifying. That is horrifying.
It's always been a thing in the world of dolls, you know, that to introduce bodily functions. You know, like we want to see them on the loo.
I mean, yeah. Would you want to see my?
Her hair grows.
It's
that
close
was another
to
one.
real.
Yeah.
It's close to real. And in one strange way, I'd much rather be able to buy my daughter, who's now grown up, but I mean, she was into Barbie and all that sort of stuff. But it's something that's being potty trained that they can all learn from, as opposed to some bloke in his 30s and 40s dressing up as some drag queen and coming in to talk to the 3-year-old.
Maybe Magic Potty Baby any time. Now, as you know, this is a political programme, and we like to follow party political broadcasts, and this is time now for Vote for Me. Here's Brian Kemp. He wants to be governor of Georgia.
I'm Brian Kemp. This is Jake, a young man interested in one of my daughters.
Yes, sir.
Jake asked why I was running for governor. I said, 1,
Cap government spending.
2,
Take a chainsaw to regulations.
3,
Make Georgia #1 for small business.
and 2 things if you're gonna date one of my daughters.
Respect.
And
A healthy appreciation for the Second Amendment, sir.
we're gonna get along just fine.
Brian Kemp for governor.
You see, people say Americans are obsessed with guns. I don't think so. Here's Kate Ivey. She's running for governor of Alabama, or at least some friends of hers are.
Man, I'm sick of those D.C. politicians.
Me too. That's why I like Governor Ivey.
She is honest.
Tough as nails.
Nothing D.C. about her. She sure cleaned up that Bentley mess.
Protected our monuments.
She's breaking records of jobs creation.
President Trump said Kay Ivey is a great governor.
Woman knows how to get a bang for her buck. Straight shooter, that Kay Ivey.
Yeah, put your aim to shame.
Yeah, look who's talking.
She's got my vote. She's only 92.
This cannot be real.
Those are real party political broadcasts.
And why?
You better believe it.
Why do they have a mummy running for Congress?
Well, welcome to America. What do you make of it, Sags?
That Brian, though, of course, is now virtually in the opposite camp on the same side as Donald Trump, and he's every chance of going a long way. He hasn't said yet that he wants to get into the Senate, but what is scary about this is that he is basically electable as far as they're concerned.
That's horrifying.
I think both of them are basically saying, vote for me or we'll shoot you. Listen, I want to thank both of you. It's been a great show. Thank you very much to political commentator Esther Cracker and the legendary Mark Saggers. Thank you so much. And we're going to our real break now. What should we do about the migrant crisis? Should we actually do anything? Or should we adopt the Rishi Sunak approach with a never-ending production line of tough-talking announcements and absolutely no action? Perhaps we could go for the Boris Johnson solution, shrug our shoulders and think to ourselves that since we live in fashionable London, thousands of foreigners pouring across the English Channel illegally, week after lethal week, aren't worth worrying about. By my estimation, it has taken this sorely out-of-touch government 3 floundering years to realise that unless they put the brakes on this ongoing invasion, they will lose the next election. Ooh, horror of horrors, I use the word invasion. That's because after nearly 50,000 aliens invaded our shores in a year of crossing dangerously, it's the right word. Don't let them tell you what you can and cannot say. That's how they seek to control you. Just say no. But never mind all the other reasons the Tories are on course for an historic defeat. The migrant crisis alone will be their downfall. Now that this glaringly obvious truth has finally dawned on him, our dear billionaire leader this week declared enough is enough and brought in alleged hard-hitting new laws to stop the rot. From now on, stormed Rishi impressively, not a single migrant who arrives on British beaches illegally will be allowed to stay. Sounds good, eh? But how does the Prime Minister define that a migrant is illegal? Does he fall in with the chattering class's insistence that if, having pitched up on our shores in deadly dinghies without passports or documents, they claim political asylum, they are legal until their application has been processed, in about a decade usually, because that's not going to stop a damn thing. Not so much a deterrent, more an encouragement to anyone who fancies living in the United Kingdom. Even though with a rocketing population of 70 million and rising, this packed out country is officially full up. Our infrastructure is creaking at the seams. We simply cannot take more and more Albanians. In fact, we can't take any more migrants from nations where there is neither war nor torture. It should be no war, no torture, no new life in Britain. But it ain't, because a management-speak globalist at heart, Rishi, has decided in his infinite lack of wisdom that we do not need to leave the European Convention on Human Rights, which means that any time we want to, I don't know, say, fly a few illegal migrants to Rwanda, the European Court of Human Rights will sit in judgment and rule that the plane stays on the ground. As long as we cede sovereignty to Europe, the migrant crisis will continue apace. I hope Rishi has got it right and that somehow his optimistic fudge succeeds. I hope he does something to empty the 440 hotels currently fully booked with hungry, unemployed, mostly male migrants who British taxpayers are feeding, accommodating and giving 45 quid a week to. But if the UK does not leave the European Convention on Human Rights, we are not masters of our own destiny. We do what we are told, and Home Secretary Suella Braverman will carry on her vital role as the nation's hotel finder-in-chief. Good luck with the latest of your many tough-talking migrant crisis announcements, Rishi. God knows you're going to need it. What just happened?
Introducing Mike and Kevin's ice cream for snowflakes. Indulge in our deliciously sanctimonious flavors, such as Extinction Raspberryan, Cancel Culture and Cream, Cookie Double Warming, Non-Bineberry, Woca-Cola, Ginger Nut, and Vanilla. All made from our organic gender fluid. Mike and Kevin's ice cream for snowflakes.